My sister had always been good at making cruelty sound festive. By the time she stood from her folding chair at the annual family picnic, sunlight catching her wine glass as she tapped it gently with a fork, I already knew I was about to become part of the entertainment. Toast, she said brightly. Conversation softened. My parents smiled before she'd even spoken, as if they'd been waiting for this. To the one who always shows up, she began, pausing just long enough for people to lean in, broke, desperate, and still trying to matter. Laughter erupted instantly, not shocked laughter. Familiar laughter, the kind built over years. My mother nearly spilled her drink. My father leaned back in his chair, grinning with the same detached amusement he'd always worn whenever I became the cautionary tale. Even cousins I barely saw exchanged awkward chuckles, following the social current. And there I was, 34 years old, standing beside a picnic table full of food I had partially paid for, holding a drink in one hand and, for the first time in my life, realizing I was no longer embarrassed, just finished. For years I had played my assigned role, the unstable son, the struggling brother, the one who never quite figured it out. It had been an easy narrative for them, mostly because I'd never defended myself. I'd spent my 20s helping my parents stay afloat after dad's failed business, covered medication when mom's insurance lapsed, paid school fees once for my younger cousin, and for the past 18 months, without public acknowledgement, I had been quietly covering my sister's rent after her divorce left her financially cornered. Not because she asked kindly, because she cried, because she said she'd lose her apartment. Because despite everything, I still thought family meant something. No one at that table knew. She had made sure of that. To them, I was just the family disappointment who worked quietly, lived modestly, and apparently still showed up for abuse. I raised my glass. My hand was steady. To the desperate one, I said evenly, who just lost access to the account funding her rent. No one laughed, not immediately. The silence was physical, heavy enough to feel. My sister's smile disappeared first, then confusion, then something closer to fear. My father straightened. My mother's face changed in that sharp, brittle way it does when social performance cracks and reality starts leaking through. What? My sister asked. I took a sip before answering. I closed it yesterday. Her voice dropped. You what? I've covered your housing for a year and a half. I said, not louder, just clearer. But if I'm broke, desperate, and pathetic, it seems irresponsible to trust me with your bills. A cousin actually put his drink down. Someone near the grill quietly walked away. My mother tried first. Oh, don't make this dramatic. Dramatic? I asked. Turning to her, I wasn't angry. That was what unsettled them. I was calm. You all laughed. No one answered because there was nothing to say. The humiliation wasn't in what I revealed. It was in the exposure of what they had failed to notice. That the person they treated like a burden had been quietly carrying one of their own. My sister stood abruptly. You're seriously doing this here? I looked at her for a long moment. You started here, and that was it. No screaming, no table flipping, no theatrical revenge. Just consequence. She left the table first, furious and humiliated, though for once not because someone had targeted her unfairly. My father followed, more out of discomfort than loyalty. My mother remained seated, staring into her drink with the brittle stillness of someone recalculating years of assumptions. What none of them knew was that this wasn't emotional impulse. The lease office had already been notified. The automatic transfers had already been terminated. My financial advisor, an actual authority, not family mythology, had finalized the separation of all informal obligations from my accounts after months of urging me to establish boundaries. For the first time, my money had structure, protection to distant. Their access to me had not been severed in anger. It had been professionally, legally, and quietly removed, and that distinction mattered because this wasn't revenge. It was self-respect with paperwork. The picnic continued eventually, though awkwardly. People avoided me, but differently now. Not with pity, with uncertainty, as if they were meeting someone they had mistaken for smaller. I left before sunset, no dramatic goodbye, no final speech. Just my keys, my cooler, and a strange, unfamiliar lightness. My sister called 12 times that week, my parents twice. I let them all go to voicemail, not to punish them. I simply had nothing left to explain. Family, I learned, can become so accustomed to your quiet support that they confuse your restraint for weakness. But there is a moment, rare, uncomfortable, irreversible, when silence stops protecting others and starts protecting you. That day, under cheap lawn chairs and paper plates, I stopped being their joke, not because I had destroyed anyone, because I finally withdrew from the role they wrote for me. And the silence after that was far more powerful than anything I could have said.